Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we are going to be continuing on with our C# tutorial series, and in this tutorial we're going to be taking a look at tuples in C#. So what exactly are tuples? Well, tuples are essentially a you can think of them as a container of values that are ordered in the way that you put them in. They're not exactly an array because tuples are limited in how many elements they can have. And in C#, the limit is, I believe, 6. So keep that in mind. Now, tuples aren't exactly common in most code bases, but I've used them enough to where I feel it is probably useful for me to show you guys how to use them. Okay, so here we are in our code. To create a tuple, let's go inside of our main method here. I don't want your suggestions, Visual Studio. We can say var coordinates equals, and then inside of these parentheses is where we do all the work for our tuple. Now, tuples can be created in two different ways, or rather, I guess 3 different ways, but I'm only going to show you 2, the most easiest way to create a tuple. The most easiest ways, rather. So, first, you can put values inside of the parentheses and not give the values any labels, no indicator as to what they mean, and leave all of that up to the naming of your tuple. Or you can give each value a label, so you can reference the values within that tuple by that label you give it. Alright, so first I'm going to show you a tuple without labels, and then I'm going to show you with a label. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Or rather, let's just keep it 3 values to keep it simple. So now this is a tuple called, let's see, we called this coordinates. This is a tuple called coordinates, and it has a couple values, 1, 2, and 3. So this can be x, y, z coordinates in this particular case. And we can reference these values by saying, say, console.writeLine coordinates dot item 1 and then we can say item 3 and item 2. And that keeps going for however many items you put in your tuple up until the 6th item. But for now, we only have 3, so we can say 1, 2, and 3. Item 1, 2, 3. And now 1, 2, and 3 will be output to the console. Pretty simple. Nothing too complicated. But I'm now going to show you how to create a tuple where you actually give them each value labels. So then you can reference the value by their label instead of saying item 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Var coordinates 2 equals opening and closing parenthesis. And then inside the parentheses we can say, for example, x colon. Okay, Visual Studio, if you can stop doing that, that'd be fantastic. And we can say for y colon 5 z colon 6. And so now we again have a tuple with 3 values, 4, 5, and 6, but this time they have a label. You can see it looks very similar to what we did with giving a method call named arguments, but it's not quite the same. Okay, so now if we wanted to print out these values to the console, we can say console.writeLine coordinates 2.x. And then we can change these to z, and then this one to y. Okay, and if we go ahead and run our code, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in your debug console. So that's how you can create a tuple in both of these ways, and then output the values in those tuples, but we're not quite done. Another useful thing you can do with tuples is you can return a tuple from a method. And with that functionality, that means we can return multiple values from a method. So let's say we wanted to take one of our coordinates tuples and calculate an offset for each value in that tuple. You can do that. Now, how do we create a method that returns a tuple then? Well, to do that, we can say private static and have our opening and closing parentheses. In here, we can say int x, int y, int z, like that. Okay? So that's our return type, our tuple, where inside it we have int x, int y, int z, all separated by commas. Then we need to give it a name. So in this case, we're going to call it calculate coordinate offset. Okay. Now, inside of these parentheses, we're going to have a couple different things. I'm going to go ahead and do a new line, put these on a new line, so that way it's a little bit more readable. We can have int x, int y, int z for the initial coordinates, and then int x offset, int y offset, and an int z offset, like that. Okay, so now, inside of this method, I'm going to scroll down here. Inside of our method here, we can then go ahead and do a return with an opening and closing parenthesis. And inside there, we can say x colon x plus x offset, y plus y offset, and then the z is going to be z plus z offset, like that. Okay? Now let's see here. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let's see. What do we got? Z plus okay. Now, okay, I guess what we need to do here then is so let's try this again. X plus X offset Y plus Y is Y plus the Y offset, and then Z is equal to Z plus the Z offset, like that. Okay. And so it appears that okay. Okay, there we go. That's better. We needed a space in there, and I did not put a space. Okay. So now we have our method that returns this tuple for the coordinates offsets. Okay. So now we can go up here into our main method again. And we can say var offset equals calculate coordinate offset, and we'll pass in some values where we can go ahead and just do it this way, make it a little bit more readable, where we can say coordinates.x, coordinates.y, or even then, it's not x, y, and z, item 1, coordinates.item 2, and coordinates.item 3, comma, and then provide the offsets on a new line. So negative, let's say 7, 5, 5, and a negative 95. Okay, cool. And so there's our new offsets tuple being created using the return for the calculate coordinates offset. And we can console log those values doing console.writeLine offset.x, console.writeLine offset.y, and console.writeLine offset.z. Okay. Okay, Visual Studio, knock it off. I don't want your suggestions, Visual Studio. Okay. So, yep, we're good. Okay, we should be okay. Let's go ahead and do a Control F5. And so now you can see we have the original 3 values, 1, 2, 3. Then the next 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we have their offsets based on the offsets we gave it. So that pretty much does it for our video on tuples, guys. In review, a tuple is an ordered collection of values that can only go up to 6 different values. They are surrounded by parentheses. You can either give the values in the tuple a label, or you can not provide a label and use item 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth to reference them. If you give them a label, you can reference each item by its label after a dot. Tuples are very useful for returning multiple values from a method, like we demonstrated here when we calculate the coordinate offsets. So thank you all so very much for watching, and we will see you all in the next video.